Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tips from My Garage. My name is Lisiate Tonga. I am a recovering addict. I'm an author, a business owner, a father of two beautiful boys, and a husband to a beautiful wife. And today I'm going to be talking to you all about American politics. And so before I get started, I want you guys to see my hat here. I've got my Make America Great Again hat, and I've also got my you can see here it's a vintage USA singlet, and on the back there you can see it says um, from Value Entertainment and the PVD podcast. Future looks bright. So from that, you should gather, or you should know straight away who I'm actually voting for. And for this election, I have, for the 2024 election for the US presidency, I have already voted for Donald Trump. And just to let you all know, if you don't know already, I am an American. I live in Australia. I have actually been here since 2002. And it has been pretty interesting being an American living in another country and being able to watch everything from abroad, and to see everything unfolding as it's unfolding in real time in the US, and also from a perspective of another country, and having lived here for over 20, 22 years now. I was also part of a the during the COVID lockdown, one of the most lockdown cities and states in the, not just in the country of Australia, but in the entire world. So having an understanding of what it would be like to have a tyrannical government, a government that is going to compel you or coerce you into putting a vaccine into your body against your will. It's just been really interesting. The type of lockdown that we had where I live specifically, there was only a 5 kilometer radius, which meant that I couldn't leave past a 5 kilometer radius. I had to have a permit to go further than that for work. We had check-in points where I got stopped regularly, and had to show them my proof of work, my identification, and who I was every time I had to go to work. And it was crazy because I have this vaccine passport on my phone, my Apple Wallet, that we had to use to pull out to go to restaurants or just to go to movies. And if I'm honest, I would have not got the vaccinations had it not been for the counsel from uh, the prophet of our church, who is President Russell M. Nelson. And he's the president and the prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he strongly encouraged all of the members to get vaccinated to protect themselves from serious infection. So were it not for that instruction, I would not have gotten the vaccine. Anyways, I digress. So I want to really get into the reasons for why I voted for Trump. I want to start by saying that I believe that the government has two main jobs, and those jobs are to keep us safe, our people and our country safe and protected. And the second thing is to protect our individual freedoms. Those are the two basic and most important jobs that the government has for each people. And as it pertains to the US, the United States of America, our current administration has done neither. And so I want to make the case in three different points. The first of them being the open border policies I'm not a fan of the open border policies, although I am a big proponent and advocate for immigration because my parents were migrants that came from other countries and settled in the United States. We were lucky as children because we were born in Hawaii. We were American by birth, and so we could come into the country easily. But that process wasn't so easy for my mom and dad and for my other siblings that were born outside of the U.S. But what they did do is they went through the right processes and the right channels, and followed the steps that the United States had set for them in order for them to gain their citizenship. And so I know that being in the US, our family being in the United States, has been a massive blessing to all of us, not just to my parents, but to us as children. And I'm always going to be forever grateful for that. And because of that, even living here in Australia for the amount of time that I have been here, I'm still very patriotic. I'm still very American, and believe in the country and its constitutions, and have great faith in the way that it has been structured and the promises that God gave us for the country, and also the work that our forefathers had put into making the country what it is today. And so that open border policy, though, the way that it is now, when you have people coming through the border unvetted, meaning they are unchecked, and you have millions and millions of these people coming from all over the world flooding into the country, this then starts to suck up resources, which is tax money that I'm not paying, but you're paying. I live in Australia. I pay taxes to the Australian government, but you guys, as Americans, you guys are paying your tax dollars to fund all of these illegal immigrants that are flooding into the country. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, if you are a hardworking citizen in the United States and you are paying taxes, then know that the money that you are the work that you are doing, a portion of that is going to fund these people that are coming into the country. And not only are they coming into the country unvetted, but there are a lot of criminals that are being released into the country, roaming to various different parts and corners of the United States and wreaking havoc. And so I don't like that open border policy, and I don't like the fact that it's sucking up resources that could be going to our taxpayers. We have a lot of issues within the country, within our own country and our own American people, and those taxpayer funds would be better served if they were used for our people. And so that's one thing that I have a disagreement on. The other thing is I do not agree with the wars that they have going on overseas. What's happening in the Ukraine with Russia at the moment, and what's happening in the Middle East with Israel and Lebanon, and the Gaza Strip. I don't agree with the U.S., with our taxpayer funds going overseas to fund these wars. I do not actually see the point in that. It doesn't make any sense that our hard-earned money is going to pay for other people's, not just other people's wars, but to pay for other countries and their peoples, supporting their peoples, while we have a bigger problem within our nation, within our own people, with our own problems, with our drug use, with our homelessness, with our um, with illegal immigrants coming into the countries, with there's so many different problems that are going on in the United States at the moment. It makes zero sense to me that any of that money would be going to fund wars overseas. It really grinds my gears just thinking about that, and also what's happening in Israel and in Gaza at the moment, and also with what's happening in Lebanon. Like, listen to this: the U.S. funds is giving money to Israel, and so the U.S. is helping Israel out, and Israel is just one of the many countries out there that the U.S. taxpayers are paying for. And so what Israel does with that money is they can use it for whatever purposes they want, but a lot of that goes to whatever they need to do, for their military, or for to keep themselves safe, or whatever it is that they think they need it for. But a lot of that is used for war purposes. And so they have just recently bombed Lebanon, and I know that there were a lot of bad people in Lebanon, and they probably, well, I know that they weren't targeting the people there, the innocent people there, but the truth of the matter is that there's still innocent people dying over there. And so I have a friend that lives in Lebanon that I reached out to, and this is while all of this bombing was happening in Lebanon, and she's saying that she couldn't leave the country at the time because the airports were shut, and the bombings were happening close to where she was living, and because they couldn't leave the country, they were just sitting ducks. And so they're just waiting there, not knowing what their fate is going to be, just praying to God that everything is going to work out the way that it should work out. And what doesn't make sense to me is that the U.S. is funding one side, and then what it's also doing is sending money to Lebanon as well, to help them out with the issues that they're having. It just doesn't make sense to me. What are we doing? Like, what are we really doing with our taxpayer dollars? Like, we're going to fund one side to drop bombs on another country, and then we're sending aid to this country that is getting bombed on. Like, that makes zero sense to me. Like, I do not understand it. So I don't. What I don't agree with is wars that we have to be involved in when we have our own issues. And so I'll just leave the war thing at that. The biggest thing that I don't like about what the current administration is doing is they're pushing for policies to ban free speech, and they're doing it in the name of misinformation or disinformation. And what they're trying to say is people shouldn't be using hate speech, or people shouldn't be lying about this, or people shouldn't be lying about that. But to be honest with you, speech is speech, and it should be free across the board. If people want to lie about this or want to lie about that, then that's up to them. But everyone needs to be able to voice their opinions. This is how we there has to be discourse, there has to be disagreements, there has to be arguments for ideas, for better ideas. There has to be conversation. There has to be two-sided conversations where the better idea will win out. If we don't have the better idea win out, then we are going to decline as a nation. We will eventually become not competitive because the best ideas don't win out, and some other idea that the government might think is the best idea could win out. And the government they shouldn't have a monopoly on free speech. The government is not there let's say the government does have a monopoly on free speech. What that means is that they get to choose what is misinformation and what is disinformation. And let's say, for example, that government is tyrannical. If that government is tyrannical, then what they can do is they can manipulate speech so that it goes in their favor, so that whatever they want to be disinformation is disinformation, and whatever they want to be misinformation is misinformation, even if those things are true, because and even if they're going to conflict with what the government wants to do. That's tyrannical. You do you understand that that is the biggest, I think, if you were to hinge this election on one thing, it would be free speech. It would be our ability to be able to speak freely. If you take this one freedom away from our country, then everything is lost. Everything is lost until the people rise up, and then civil war or whatever potentially might come of that, depending on what the people will do. But I know that there are a lot of Americans that are proud and patriotic and understand the Constitution, what it was written for, and what their freedoms are, and what they mean to us as a people, and what it means not just to us as a people, but to the world as well. Everything that happens in the US, there's going to be a knock on effect in every other country. I think everyone else is going to follow suit. If everything stays the way that it is currently at the moment, and then it goes like this for another 4 years, then you can expect that that is going to start to spread even more into other countries, and that could also, I mean, it has already affected us here in Australia, but it would even give these governments even more motivation to be able to do those same things that the governments are doing overseas, and in particular in the United States. And so I'm a big proponent for free speech. Everyone should be able to speak their minds. Everyone needs to be able to say their piece. Everyone, our nation was built on ideas, and on the best ideas. And the only reason that they were the best ideas is because we could have arguments about them, is because we could have debates about them, is because we could argue points back and forth. And then when the best idea wins out, then that will create other ideas and other things that will have that will create other conversations and other debates for more ideas. But the reason our country is the way that it is because the best ideas have always won out, because we've always been able to argue them until we did nut out which one is the best ideas. And so the last thing I want to say about the current administration, and in particular about Kamala Harris, is I do not think that she is leadership quality and that she is fit to run a nation. And there's many reasons why I think that, but she did say something just a couple of days ago with regards to Columbus Day. And what she said is that, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that we all have to be ashamed of what our ancestors did in the past. And you know, I think that alone disqualifies her from being able to be the leader of our country. If what she's leading with going into this new election, what she's leading with is, let's all be ashamed collectively as a country for the things that happened hundreds of years ago, whatever that may be. And the thing is that was our country, did bad things happen in the past? Yes, they did happen in the past. But why are we meant to suffer the sins of what people had done before we even got here? And isn't the point of this to actually move forward? Because what we do when we sit here and we get stuck on the past and the things that we've done in the past, is we live in the past. And what we do when we live in the past is we forget about what's going on in the future, because this becomes the priority. And we spend so much time on this thing right here, which is a nothing, when we have all of these problems and all of these things in front of us. Like, what we need to do is we need to, as a country, learn from the mistakes that have happened in the past. Were they Were they bad things that happened? Yes, they were bad things. Did we learn? What can we learn from that? What can we do differently moving forward? And then let's move forward. Let's acknowledge those things happened into the past. But if we're to be honest, if Christopher Columbus never came here, then she couldn't. We wouldn't. No one would be here. No, none of us would be able to sit here and talk the way that we do, and she wouldn't be able to stand there and say what she just did, because this country probably wouldn't be here. And so I think that thing alone, if she's ashamed to be an American, then that should disqualify her right there for being a leader of a nation. How can you be a leader of a nation that you're embarrassed about or that you're ashamed of? And you're trying to tell a whole country to be ashamed of the country. I'm proud to be an American. We should be proud to be American. We we have become who we are because of what has happened in our past. The great nation that we are now is because of those people that came here before us. Whether they were flawed or not, what they did set us up for where we are today. And we are the most blessed nation, and we can't even see that. We can't even see that. We're so entitled. We're so much like we look so much for handouts these days. It's unbelievable. There's no more like, what can I do for your country? What can I do for my country? It's all like, what can my country do for me? Or what can I do for, like, this group over here saying, what are they doing for me? What are they doing for me? And what does the government do? They promise that they can deliver this, that they can deliver that. They're going to give you this and give you that. We're not a country of handouts. We really shouldn't be. In the Declaration of Independence, it says that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, which are God-given rights, because they're our Creator's rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, you notice there that, so it says two things. We have the right to life, and we have the right to liberty, and we have the right to pursue happiness. It doesn't say that it guarantees you happiness. That part is up to you. The government can't make you happy. So a government can say, yes, we're the party of joy, or we're this and that. You can't really say that, because you can't collectively, just because you're part of a party, can collectively you're now joyful. Joy is something that's attained personally on an individual level. That's not something that the government can hand you. The government cannot hand you happiness. The government cannot hand you joy. The government should only be able to give you the opportunity to fight for those things, or the opportunity to just like everyone else, an equal opportunity that everybody has to make the most of the freedoms that they do have. That's what the guarantee is. That's what the guarantee should be. It's not that it's going to guarantee you all of these other things. It's just going to guarantee you that your right is protected to be able to shoot for the stars, to be successful, to do all those things that you have wanted to do, to give you those opportunities. And that really has always, those opportunities are actually there. That's why people go to the country. That's why people are flooding to the country. It's unbelievable for me to hear when people are saying, oh, let's if Trump gets into office, I'm going to move out of the country. You've got millions and millions of people flocking into this country. You think they're coming here because this is the bad country? This is the bad country? No, they're coming here because of the opportunities. Now, granted, there are a lot of people coming in here because of the free handouts. And then why wouldn't you? If you've got a government that's saying, come here, we've got money for you. We've got plane tickets for you. We've got houses for you. We've got food for you. Why wouldn't your borders be flooded? But there will also be people in there that know that America is the country of opportunity. It gives you the freedoms to be able to take the shots that you want, to become successful, to have a family, to live the American dream. The white picket fence with the dog in the back going woof, woof, to have a family, to do all those things. That's what the government should do. It should keep us safe, and it should protect our freedoms to be able to do that. And our current government has done neither. And those are the reasons why I don't like the current administration. The reasons quickly that I voted for Trump. And here's another telltale sign before I get into that, is that you've got people like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk, who used to be like hardcore Democrats. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that Tulsi Gabbard was running for president as a Democrat. Now they've all switched parties to Trump, and even RFK has been critical of Trump. He sued him. He tells everybody that I've sued him. I've told him he was crap at this or didn't do this right, and he pressed him on policies and all of these other things. And for somebody that has had that sort of history with Trump to now join forces with him, along with these other Democrats, I mean, you have to look at that and wonder, and you have to ask yourself, why are they combining? Why are they grouping together? What is so important to them that they are willing to put off what their badge says that they should be, because they have one common goal? And you know what that one common goal is to keep our freedoms, to protect our people, to keep our freedoms, and to make America healthy. And those are just a few of the reasons why they are collaborating and why they're getting together. But you have to think about that. Why are they? You have to ask yourself, why are they doing that? What is bigger? What is bigger than them? So big to them that they put their own personal things aside to join forces because of one thing. And that is because they believe that this election is the first time in history where what is the most important election in history so far, because the Constitution is threatened the way that it is, because our freedoms are threatened like it's never been before. Like if it continues to go the way that it is now, we will lose our freedoms. And that's why it's so important, and the reason for why they are getting together, because they want to make sure that they put their best foot forward to make sure that that does not happen. And so I'm with them on that. I want to join them. I want to join them on that. On the back of the singlet, it says, "Future looks bright," and I still believe that. Even though the country is in shambles or the way that it is right now, and there's everything is heated and everyone is uptight and anxious, not knowing what's going to happen, the future is still bright. We have faith and hope that the right people, God willing, the right people will get into office, and we will continue to be able to flourish, and to be a leader and an example to all the countries around the world, like we always have been. And so I do believe, in terms of the policies, I do believe that Trump, when he comes in, will have better policies than what's happening currently at the moment. I had talked about earlier about how the open border has been problematic. I know that Trump has already had conversations with Zelensky, and I know he has relationships with a lot of the Middle Eastern leaders. I know that his thing is he's going to want to bring these wars to an end, and I think that can only be good for our country. And when I say our country, I'm talking about the United States of America. Because if we stop funding wars, then we're going to have more money for our own people. It's really funny, now that I think about it. If Tupac and this might be contentious, but if Tupac was alive right now, I think that he would have been a conservative, and I think he would have been Republican, and I think he would have voted for Trump. And I'll tell you why. And there's two lyrics that he has in his music, and one of them is, "We have money for wars but can't feed the poor." I mean, you think about that. And he was 25 when he passed on. 25, 26 years old. He was so young, and yet he still knew that what the government was doing. But it's more true today than it ever has been, and it's more blatantly obvious than it ever has been before. We have money for wars, but we can't feed the poor. I mean, this is exactly what it is. We are sending billions and billions of dollars overseas, and we've got natural disasters that we can't fund ourselves. And the interesting thing about that is that whenever anyone else needs money overseas, the U.S. is always the first to send money over, but yet they can't seem to they seem to have to always pass, like for a natural disaster like what's going on the East Coast with hurricanes and such. They still have to go through the process, the democratic process. Like they still need to pass things through the House and the Senate in order for them to get funds approved to go to them. It's unbelievable that the United States is doing two things. They are printing money, and they are taxing the hell out of the American people. These are two ways that the US is getting money to send to other countries. Do you guys understand that? That's why the inflation is so high, is because they're printing so much money. They're printing so much money, and they're taxing everybody. And the thing is that I don't understand is, like, why don't they just print money to send to the people that need it in those places that have been affected for the hurricanes? Why can't they just do that? They can do that for every other country, but they can't do that for our own people. Let's just give them $700, $800. I mean, they did the same thing in Maui. I mean, really, like, we got money for wars and we can't feed the poor. And just that one lyric, I'll tell you that Tupac would have not have flown if he was still here today. The other thing that he said was, and it's in one of my favorite songs that he sings, it's called "It's Only God Can Judge Me." He said, "Regulate your thoughts. Don't get caught up in the mix, because the media is full of dirty tricks." So he also knew that the media, that he also had his own run-ins with the media. So he would have had his own personal experiences of how the media lies about things, twist the truth, how they do things to push a certain narrative or to push a certain story. And I want to say this as well. If you are watching mainstream media, like, just if you wake up in the morning at 7 o'clock and you turn on the news on your local channel, and you come home at 5 o'clock and with your dinner you watch the news, then you are being tricked. You are being pushed in a certain direction, and you may not even be knowing it. And the media, what they should be doing is they should be informing us, and giving us objective information, and leaving it up to the people to make up their own decisions about what their own beliefs are. But instead, they push a narrative. They want you to go in a certain direction. And you won't understand that if you're watching mainstream media and that's what you do, and that's where you're getting your sources of information from. Then what I would suggest that you do is actually just to take a break from that, and try to get your sources of information from independent journalism. Like, there's so many different outlets that you can find online now, and it might take a little bit more time to get information this way, trying to get a feel for it. But you need to be able to see both sides of a coin in order for you to make an educated decision. If you only get to see one side of a story, then you'll never know that there is another side, and you will only follow the narrative or an agenda that would be behind a certain narrative. Without even knowing it, you could be herded like sheep, basically, in a certain direction. And that's what a lot of people are that's what's happening to so many people, is they are getting herded in a certain direction so that they can believe a certain narrative. And the thing that mainstream media is really good at doing is they're really great at getting people emotional. They're very good at fear mongering. And so what fear mongering does is it keeps people sucked in and stuck watching it, or it keeps people coming back to find out more and more and more and more information. With this fear mongering that the news does, what it does do is, if you're instilled with fear and you're always anxious all the time, this doesn't do anything good for your health. It should be called bad news, because that's all it is bad news. Guess who died, and guess who got stabbed, and guess who got run over, and guess who got dropped the bomb on, and guess what's going on over here. Have you guys ever noticed that it's always just bad news? And what it does is it just gets you scared. And then when you're scared all the time, you have to continue to keep watching it because you need to know what happens next. And that's how these guys get you sucked in. I'll tell you one thing that's going to come. One thing that's going to happen when you stop watching mainstream media, your local news channels. You will actually just become happier. I'm telling you right now. Because if you're constantly being bombarded with fear, and then that all of a sudden stops, then that fear that comes from that also stops. And then that's not just better for your mental state, it's better for your physical state. But people, no joke, today are more anxious and more fearful than at any other time. And the thing that mainstream media can do for that is they can also feed you things that are going to be solutions to this fear. And then so these things are, it could be with ads, it could be things that they want you to buy, it could be medication, it could be this, it could be that. But don't get your information from there. They are no longer a reliable source of information. They cannot give you objective news. They only one-sided. Those guys are bought and paid for by other bigger people behind them that want people to follow a certain narrative. So don't get your information from there. And I guess I want to leave you with this one thing, right? Like the current administration has been one way this whole 3.5 years, and then all of a sudden are now trying to change their tune because it's coming up to an election, and they're trying to say all the right things now to get the vote. And what I really dislike about what happened with the Democratic Party is that Kamala Harris was not elected. She was forced in or put into that position. There was no primary election, so she was never nominated by her party. As soon as everybody knew, the whole world knew that Joe Biden was incapable of being able to run for another season, what they should have done is had a primary election where they elected somebody. And you know what? Even if they would have had that primary election, then she may not have even been the one there. But they have just put that Democratic Party has just put her in there, and that's the most undemocratic thing that you could possibly do. Like, that should have disqualified her on based on that alone. That they didn't follow the process. They never followed the process in this way. And so there's a lot of things that they have done over this 3.5 years, and then now they're just trying to change their tune so that they can get the votes in. And I'll finish with this story. And I like this story because it was shared by a prophet of our church, whose name was President Gordon B. Hinckley. And this story is about an Indian boy who climbed a high mountain, and it was cold up there, and at his feet was a snake, a rattlesnake. And the snake was cold and pleaded with the young man to pick it up and take it down where it was warmer. The Indian boy listened to the enticings of the serpent. He gave in. He gathered it up to his arms, into his arms, and covered it with his shirt. He carried it down the mountain to where it's warm. He gently put it on the grass. When the snake was warm, it raised its head and struck the boy with its poisonous fangs. The boy cursed the snake for striking him as an answer to his kindness. The snake replied, "You knew what I was when you picked me up." And I think that if you are going to vote for the Democratic Party thinking that they're going to change and she gets into office and you have another 4 years of what they just came out of, then I would say that you deserve it. You will reap the rewards of what you sow, because you know what the Democratic Party is, and to think that they're anything else is crazy. You know what they are. You know what they are, and to think that they can change themselves is nuts. So I hope this finds you well. God bless. God bless America, and let's go Trump. 1,